like, can you, okay, so this is, this is something that, we wanna talk about because I'm kinda looking at your grades and they're good grades, they're good grades. But what I'm looking at is, a couple of little problems with algebra and with biology. It's not too bad. It's one's a 61 and one's a 67. But what I was looking at is that it's probably just a missing grade or missing communication. What do you think? The reason why I chose recognizing emotions in others was because I wanted to try to see could we tune in to what's happening with the teachers in the room or help them tune in to you, you know, because a lot of times teachers, what we'll do is we will make it your responsibility to tell us what's going on. And the reason why they do that at the high school level is because most high school students don't want you assuming anything about them. They rather you ask, and a lot of times people forget to ask once you guys get to this level. Does that make sense? So when I was asking you about, tell me a little bit about social cues, I'm assuming that something's happening, we're missing something in that room, that's causing us to miss that grade. You see why I'm doing this? And that has to do with a great deal of empathy. You know what empathy is, in short? Empathy is different from sympathy. Sympathy is feeling, I'm gonna give you a cue. Sympathy or a hint. Sympathy is feeling, so I feel sorry for you. I feel sad for you, or I'm happy for you, if anything happens to you. But what is, I feel for you. But what is empathy? When you feel, I feel for you, I feel outside of you. I feel that for you. But empathy is more in my words, in Miss Dilworthology. Empathy is more placing yourself in that person's shoes. You know what I mean? So like sometimes you have to see behind their eyes, as difficult as that may be, or see behind Miss Dilworth's eyes, or Miss Dilworth's trying to see behind your eyes. I need to see what you see. And the only way that I can do that, I need to decrease so much of me and put on some of you. Now, in order for us to try to find a way to communicate with the teachers and figure out where we're going, because your grades were so good, like you had all 80s. I'm looking at with the one class algebra. Are you aware there's several warm-ups, but there's several missing? Like we have 3 missing grades. You want to see? You want to take a look at that? I mean, you kind of know what they are, don't you? So it's 3 CW2I, CWSA, CWSC. Do you know what those are? Off the top, nothing. Well, I'm assuming CW means classwork. What do you think? And on the 15th, you were there, right? 10:15. On 10:15, that was on a Tuesday. That's a long time ago, but I'm assuming you were there because it doesn't really count you absent. So what I'm saying is there were 3 things to do on that day, and then she gave the due date as 11/21. So that means you had time to turn it in later, the same classwork. Did you ever catch any cues of her speaking of this in the classroom? She may have said, hey, there's some people, and not calling your name. She may have said, hey, there's some people in here that have some missing work. And you have until a certain date, the 21st or whatever, you have 2 more days to turn it in. Did you ever hear anything like that? And a lot of times what they will do, just putting ourselves in other shoes. A lot of times what a teacher will do is kind of give you a glance or a notice or a look, you know, as in not to embarrass you or to, you know, single you out. So I thought that dealing with detecting facial cues or just kind of, having that communication, that's called a nonverbal communication, right? So I thought we would look at that together and try to figure out what happens in the room with the teacher. Maybe you're giving these cues and she's not picking them up. Does that make sense? Because how easy is it for you to ask for help on a scale of 1 to 10? It's halfway. So like if she's talking, so what that tells me, am I right? I'm just I'm reflecting. What that tells me is when she's talking, you don't really feel like you can interrupt her and maybe say, hey, could you slow down? I didn't understand that. I didn't get that. And see what it kind of implies to me is if you missed 3 assignments in one day, you kind of got lost whenever she started one assignment and just moved on. Do you remember being late, ever coming in late, and maybe Miss Ramirez moving through the classwork and didn't give you a chance to catch up, and maybe you couldn't say, hey, I didn't get the first 10 minutes of that. Could you please help me out? Do you remember anything like that? You think that's where we were with that? So at that time, did you do anything do you remember doing anything to try and communicate to her that there was a problem? Maybe with your face? So, well, let's see what the power, because facial cues do help us with our feelings. Don't you agree? So let's see if we can find some power in how you're communicating what you might have wanted to communicate to your teachers when there is you're trying to do your classwork and maybe it's not working out so well. You're trying to get her attention without getting everybody else's attention. Did you think this might be, a good tool to use, your facial cues? Maybe not, or not? Is it because she doesn't pay attention to you or you don't pay that much attention to her? What do you think? You're giving me a cue now. What is that cue you're giving me now? Even that cue. Is that cue on your list? Can you look at your list? And let me look at mine. What is that cue? What is that basic emotion that you're displaying to me? Was that on here? Anger, sadness, fear, disgust, contempt, surprise, and happiness. Is that on here? But that look that you're giving me is another look. Maybe confusion, or I'm not sure what I need to, I'm not sure about it. What do you think? Yes or no? I'm not really sure. I like it. Okay. So on the first young lady, on her emotions, I kind of guessed, and I'm a little bit better maybe at giving feeling words than you, but I want you to be encouraged to give your feeling words, okay? In whatever comes to mind, because a lot of words mean the same thing, right? So like the very first one, what is that young lady feeling? And I bet we can give ourselves another feeling word to go with it. Do you have your paper, dear? Okay. What is the very first one? What did you call this emotion? The very first one. What was it? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
That's it.
Contempt. And in your own words, in Jay's words, what is contempt? Just give me a word. Look at her face. I see her eyebrows perched.
Like a mug.
Yeah, she's mugging. She is mugging. I like that word. She's mugging to let you know there's a problem here, right? Contempt is letting someone know we have an issue. I'm not all the way. It's not all the way on 10, but it just went from everything's okay to everything slightly moving from okay, right? Right. And so I like that. Do you ever use that in class with either of these teachers? Like, what about in biology? Do you ever use that face? Can you ever think of a time that you can use it moving forward? Perhaps when they are in instruction and not actually, giving you that moment to understand it or catch up with the work, with the assignment? Do they ever turn around and say, does anybody understand? Are we good before we move forward? They say that. Do you ever raise your hand and you're ignored? Or are there too many others that are raising their hands and you can't get your question in? No? So would there ever be a time that you would use everything was okay, but it's slightly moving from okay? Will there ever be a time? Maybe in the future that you could use it, and if they didn't understand what it was, would you be okay with communicating? Right now, I'm feeling the contempt emotion. Like, well, Jay, what does that mean? Well, it kind of means that everything's okay, but it's slightly starting to move. It's agitating. It's stirring up, right? And here is my problem. Are you okay with that phrase? Here's where the problem is. Here's what we can do to fix it. Are any of these sounding like any statements that you might be comfortable in the future using? I'd like you to go slower. Here's where the issue is. I'd like you to go slower. And I don't want to have to say it in front of the entire class. Maybe, maybe not. Okay. What is the next emotion?
Disgust.
Very good. It is disgust. And what is disgust in geology? I know in Miss Dilworthology, it's kind of like I'm running out of options. So I'm moving to a place where I'm not all the way helpless, but I'm starting to feel like I don't have the benefits of all the help. What do you think about that? Like, what disgusts you? Give me an idea. It disgusts me when I am in a conversation with someone and I'm talking and I'm in mid-sentence and they say, but wait a minute. What do you think about that? Does that kind of disgust you? Yeah. What else? Give me something else. One other thing. Have you ever been in the cafeteria or on the basketball field basketball court or at home and you're trying to make a statement. What about, this is a good one. This is a good one. Show me what your face looks like when you go in to get your cereal and put it in the bowl. And you open up that door and it's about that much milk in the refrigerator. Let me see that. Let me see the face. You actually make that face? No, you don't. What is the face? That's the face, right? So give me that scenario. That's like, that's the face, right? Is this the face? Like, I can't believe mama didn't get the milk. Well, I mean, what is she thinking? She knew it's Saturday morning, right? Those are the thoughts that are going through your head. So sometimes if you see that look, maybe on your teachers' faces, maybe that look is deterring you from asking questions. Have you ever seen that look of disgust and thought, today I'm not gonna ask any questions in these two classes? Is that what happens? No, not at all. Because, there are times when we are really using this transfer of emotions, and sometimes we might be getting the wrong signal. Looks like to me you get pretty good signals. Tell me about the third one. What do you think that third one is?
Anger.
Oh, it is anger, isn't it? Yeah. And how can you tell that? What made you think that that was anger? What were the cues in her face? Looking at the picture, what were the cues? What I'm looking at is right here. What were you looking at? How could you tell if Miss Dilworth was angry? What did you see? Was it this? Was it the eyebrows? Recognizing her eyebrow. What about, did you notice how her nose was different in the other pictures? Her nose is crinkled like this, where I don't have that much of a nose, but do you notice how her nose was straight in the other two pictures and it was crinkled in that picture? Do you ever see that? Do you ever see that face when your teachers are in the instruction in the classroom? You never see that face? Okay, well, that's a good thing. What about the fourth picture?
Fear.
Fear. I like it. I like it. Like, whoa. You ever see that face in the classroom? What about with any of your other peers? Have you ever seen any of these four? Just in random, in the classroom, just looking around the classroom when different exchanges are happening. Do you ever see those? They're very common. You ever see them? Do you ever address it? No? You don't feel like you should, or why? You obviously know you obviously are being empathetic, because if you can look at a person's face and tell that they have changed their mood or emotion, then you're obviously a very empathetic person. And that means you can put yourself in their shoes, which means you have a pretty good line of communicating. Anything arising that may be one of the reasons to why we are, maybe have fallen so much, because in biology, there's a 67. Do you feel that maybe the instructor is not paying attention to your needs? Not at all. So why the 67 from an 81 last semester? Why such a dramatic drop? Oh, not coming? So the attendance has been a problem? What's been going on? Is there anything, is it too personal to talk about, or were you not allowed to make up work? Because you do know you have accommodations that allow you to make up your work. Did you know that? You do know that? Do you feel like fairly you have been allowed to make it up? Be honest. Fairly. So, there's a 0 for the second 6 weeks binder check. And then I have, snorks in the lab not yet graded, so that means you did turn that in, right? On the 3rd. But then, well, I have an RTT quiz also that's not yet graded. What went on with the second 6 weeks binder check? Do you keep the binder in the room, or you take it home? Oh, forget to bring it back. So, do you think that, we could benefit from some organization skills? Like, do you often take that binder home and forget to bring it back? But just this one. Well, we're moving into the third 6 weeks, so did you never try to go back and recover the grade at all? Did you just say, well, forget it, I didn't turn it in on that date, so I'm good. I'm not bothering myself with that. That's what okay. Would you like to salvage that grade if you can, possibly? I don't know if the grade directly meets, I don't know if you can, but I'm saying if you were afforded the opportunity, would you like, oh, come on in. Would you like to do that? So how about I have a little talk? How about I have a little talk? Stop by and have a little talk with Mr. Scott. Thank you, that'll conclude. Are we at 20 minutes?
22.
Great.